Hello, everyone. Again, I am Claire Craig, and I am moderating this panel peering through the pandemic experiences from around the world. We have with us today Mr. Nico Shaper, Mr. Nishal Gobardan, as well as Mr. Gabriel Adonello, and they will be speaking to us on various aspects of their regions and some of the challenges that they have had, some of the trends that they are seeing, and how actually, what are some of the important aspects and what have they seen with respect to running these challenges during the pandemic, this pandemic. Um, our speakers are no strangers to CarPIF, except probably Gabriel. This may be his first time, but both Nico and Nishal have been here several times before. So I will just ask, we will start with Nico, who will talk to us a little bit about his work on the AM6 Caribbean IX, and then we'll move to Nishal and then Gabriel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire. Good to see you again after all these months, almost a year and a half. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this platform where we exchange knowledge and experience over the years. Unfortunately, it's virtual this time, and not in one of our beautiful islands, as we are accustomed to get together. But nevertheless, it's good that we have it virtually, so we get the chance to meet each other again and exchange knowledge and experience. So for those who doesn't know me, I work with the Amsterdam Internet Exchange, and I'm located in Curaçao. And we will be talking a little bit about the pandemic and peering through the pandemic. As we all experienced. I have no slides, so I just want to share some of the experience and then see if we have some questions and answers, right? So I thought a lot about it, but actually peering during the pandemic from our perspective has been actually business as usual. The business as usual because the IX platform M6 Caribbean has been designed and built to handle traffic growth, I should say. So the traffic growth that we experienced during the pandemic was about 25% if you compare it with the traffic stats before the pandemic. And the platform, the IXP platform, has proven to be able to handle the 25% of this traffic. So there was not really much that we had to do from a technical perspective, only other than monitoring the traffic and see, the members, whether they needed upgrades of their ports or any other assistance or support from the IXP perspective. But the 25% growth that we did experience, the peering went on as it was before the pandemic. So that was really kind of business as usual. I have to also say that the data centers and the carriers, they have proven also to be up to par. The data centers have implemented their COVID-19 policies in terms of getting access to the data centers when necessary, and with that also getting access to the IXP platform. But all that went quite smoothly also. The policies that have been put in place did work. Whenever we needed access, we were sure that we could get access to the data centers and to the IXP platform. So there is not much news on that side, I would say. But what we did experience, and which I would like to share with you, is that we have been talking a few years on this panel on Caribbean Peering Forum about um, digital transformation and transforming more towards a internet economy and an internet society. As Bevel has also said this morning, trying to create more content, trying to create locally more content. So, and that is actually what did happen, So I would like to share with you that not so much from the IXP platform technical, but more the peering part, the 25% increase in traffic that we have experienced was basically a result of the pandemic, of course. Or what happened there? What I've seen happening is that um, um, during the lockdown that we had, different companies that wanted or needed to continue to do business in Curacao um, switched over to online ordering and deliveries. So we have been talking for a long time that we needed to innovate and get a more internet economy in the Caribbean. And I think as a result of the pandemic, that got a serious push. So we've seen restaurants, supermarkets, hardware stores, if you like, all of a sudden it has become possible to shop online, order online, and even get it delivered to whatever location you needed it to be delivered to. So it sounds very, very easy and very logical, but it has before the pandemic not been possible. And due to pandemic, this is a result of that. Another thing that became quite possible is that the banks um, improved their payment services by introducing contactless payments. So that was also an innovation that is a result of the lockdowns and the pandemic measures that were taken. So all of a sudden, we could get in contact with the local banks by chat. Before you had to go to the bank, stand in line, wait for I don't know how long to put your question forward. And now all of a sudden it is possible to just through a WhatsApp get in contact with the bank and get your stuff done instead of having to go there because, of course, as we know, you couldn't go there. So bank introduced communication through chats and contactless payments. And we all know about the schools, right? So all of a sudden we had to switch over to remote and distance learning, online learning, which also has its effect on the locally created content. And it was quite important to try and keep that content local instead of having it shipped all over the place and get peered in other locations. Governments, um, all of a sudden it became possible to get in contact with the government through online platforms. So e-government got introduced quickly during the lockdown period. So especially the tax office, they managed to get online tax filings up and running and improved through a portal. So that process could keep going as it was before the pandemic. And the government itself got to communicate with the community through all kinds of channels, through social media, and Facebook and well, all kinds of other platforms that they all of a sudden start using. So what I'm basically saying here is that there was not so much an issue from the IXP perspective because it was peering and it remains peering. The only thing what changed was that the traffic volume increased significantly. But the big thing that took place was actually the digital transformation and innovation, as we have been looking for a long time. You know, we have been pushing and pulling to get the government to introduce e-government, to get more remote digital learning, to get more online ordering and shopping and payment possibilities. So I personally believe that the good thing that came out of this pandemic is the digital transformation that we're going through at the moment. So I do believe that if we fast forward, I hope that this digital transformation will keep taking place throughout the Caribbean, and that we, as such, are creating more local content and towards this internet economy and internet society. So from that perspective, the pandemic has been a blessing in disguise, if you so will.
Yes, so that's really very good way to start this whole topic on what has happened and to hear the Caribbean perspective. I wouldn't take any questions right now. Please hold your questions. Let's move on to hear the perspective from Nishal as, you know, what is happening on the other side of the world, and then we will come back over to Latin America and the Caribbean. So Nishal, you have about 7 minutes. Let's, you know, to give your summary, and then we hear from Gabriel and take some questions. So please, participants, begin to put your questions in the Q&A box. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, and good morning to all of my friends in the Caribbean, and to those of you that I haven't made friends with yet. I'm sorely looking forward to coming back to that region of the world. Thank you, Nico, for actually having covered quite a bit of what I was going to talk about. So I guess I don't have to talk about the business as usual bits, but I'd like to speak a little bit about some of the things that we saw that's perhaps slightly different to what your perspectives would be like. Now, of course, it's very difficult to speak about Africa because you have, you know, almost first world kind of environments if you look at certain areas of Johannesburg, and very different environments if you look at other areas of the region. But there's no global, this is what happened in Africa. Whereas Nico, for example, is saying that their internet traffic went up by 25%. I can tell you that in Johannesburg, we saw traffic go up quite a bit as well, right? But there are other internet exchanges in the regions, and I'm not going to mention names, where a lot of the people who rely on internet access really rely on sort of going online from work, from businesses, right? Or they rely on the internet access, the 4G or whatever's available inside the city that they're in. And when the pandemic first, I don't want to say struck, but when the pandemic came out last year, when people started to go in lockdown in March and April, a lot of these folks had moved out into rural areas, and they'd been stuck in those rural areas for 2, sometimes 3 months. In South Africa, the initial lockdown was 3 months. You know, everything shut down basically for 3 months. And if you were in a rural area, there's a really good chance that you could not get access to high-speed internet access. And if you couldn't get access to high-speed internet, then of course there was very little traffic to push across the Internet Exchange. So a lot of a lot of exchanges in our region actually showed dips in Internet Exchange traffic, simply because there was no business day-to-day traffic that was going across, and portions of the population were in areas that couldn't get access to high-speed internet access. Some of the countries are fairly big, so you can imagine being out in the rural areas means, you know, basically best effort services. So I think that was a unique thing, because it was really interesting trying to look at my friends in Europe posting about what's going on at their internet exchanges, and then I was following my friends in Africa, what's going on at their internet exchanges, and depending on where you were, there were really different stories, and maybe we can talk about that in the Q&A a little bit more. I think one of my favorite things that has happened about this, and Nico alluded to this when he talked about the migration to digital services, is that we started to see a whole bunch of people create local solutions as well. So a very simple example, I love telling stories. This is my African problem. We provide a free-to-use Jitsi. Jitsi is like a meeting tool, right? It's an alternative to Zoom. It's an open source thing. We've provided that for years at the Internet Exchange, and it hasn't really been a thing that people use. It's just the geeks and those that are privacy aware that try to use that over Zoom or Teams or anything. But over the pandemic, when people realized that there was this free service and you could use it and you didn't have to sign up for an account or anything, you just paste someone a URL and bang, suddenly you're in the same meeting. We don't keep stats for privacy reasons, but we noticed load on the server going up, which translated to more usage. So we had to attach more resources to it. And funnily enough, it's a true story. Yesterday, I was debugging a problem with a dark fiber operator. And the tool that he eventually told me, just put this in your browser and you'll get into this meeting room, and then the three technicians on their side and myself can enter a chat. And it turned out to be our Jitsi tool. So I was very quietly sitting in the background going, how did you find out about this? And he says it was going through their office. And what is interesting for me, and maybe this isn't interesting for you, but what was interesting for me was that it was actually that sort of usage that was happening. It was because of lockdown. People were not able to travel, like you couldn't travel between regions at all. And people wanted to see their loved ones. They didn't have access to paid Zoom accounts or whatever the alternatives were. And people were exactly doing that. They were using these freeware local services. So we tried the experiment in Mauritius as well. We helped the Mauritian Internet Exchange to set up a similar service to announce it inside their communities. And the last that I heard, the Mauritians also saw a similar kind of uptake in local services. So that move to digital services and the realization that if we can have those digital services in our local economy, then we can have high definition video calls because our packets are local to us. That was happening. Not in the way that the geeks in the crowd have been trying to talk about it for years and years, saying this is why it's important to do it. But now, because people didn't actually have a choice, they were forced into these kinds of services. And very quickly, the third thing that I found interesting was at our Internet Exchange. I run an Internet Exchange as well. The thing that we saw increase wasn't just traffic, but it was more non-traditional network operators that were appearing at the Internet Exchanges. And my story, because again, story. My story for this is one of the newest participants at my exchange is a software development company that develops telemedicine applications for doctors and people in the medical profession. And their use case is literally a doctor picking up the phone and placing a video call via their platform to other medical folk, I guess. I've never used it. And when the gentleman from the software company spoke to me about how would this work for them, because remember, they're software guys, they don't know about peering. It turns out that all he really wanted was a way to get in touch with pretty much anybody that was trying to use a fiber to the home service, a mobile service to access the internet. And by connecting to the Internet Exchange, those networks were already there. So he was providing a quick and easy stop to get to it. So it's that rise in non-traditional network operators that for me was particularly interesting. And I think if there was a takeaway that I would want you to worry about and to think about, how do we develop the Internet Exchanges in the Caribbean region? Then for me, this would be a fantastic thing. Because I know for years and years, Devil and I have been saying the exchange isn't just about internet service providers. It's a means for anybody. And I think the story that I was looking forward to, the two stories, the one was the judicial system from Belize, and the other one were the radio stations from BVI. I was really, really looking forward to seeing them connect to the exchange. These would be, for me, fantastic examples of how they're now migrating into what Nico was calling the migration into digital services. I have a few more things that I can talk about, but I'm going to pause for now to give you back some time and give others a chance.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nishal. What was really interesting about this, and I hope we get some questions in the chat concerning this. We've been talking about finding local solutions for global problems, or And so in our niche, how do we find the solutions that work for us here that may be applicable elsewhere? And that's what I was hearing you speaking about, Nishal, especially with the free services that people were making use of for chat and video conferencing and those kinds of things. So we now turn over to Gabriel, who will talk to us about what are some of the trends that he has seen in the Latin American context. Thanks, Gabriel.
Hello, I'm not sure if you're, I'm sharing some
Yes,
slides.
we're seeing
First of
it and we're
all,
hearing you. Thank you.
you're hearing me?
Yes.
Good, thanks. First of all, well, I'm not very fluent in English, so I will try to do my best. And second, I would like to thank you very much for inviting me and us, LACAIX, to this lovely forum. Special thanks to Vebil, to Kevin, and to Shernan, and to, of course, Arin and CarPIF for the invitation. As this is the first time we participate in CarPIF, let me share a quick overview about LACAIX. We are the IXP association in the Latin American and the Caribbean region, and we're also members of the of IXF, which is the IX Federation. Bijal has already talked about that, together with APIX, AFIX, and EURIX. We work jointly with internet organizations in the region to develop new IXPs and also to support the least developed ones. What we do, we facilitate the environment for sharing ideas, best practices, and experiences between members. What we say is that we not just as IXPs exchange bits, but we exchange ideas. And we're also the organizers of the LAC Peering Forum, the Latin American and the Caribbean Peering Forum. We have in normal years, let's say, 2 face-to-face meetings. One is a very big one, more than 200 participants, and the other is beer and peer, just for networking purposes within the internet and peering ecosystem in the region. So this is sort of who we are, who our members are. You can see we have a few members in the Caribbean region. We have Dominican Republic, we have the Cuban Internet Exchange, we have Haiti, and we have AMSIX Caribbean. Nico has just presented here. All in all, we are 18 members in our association, and that represents more than 80 locations where internet traffic is being exchanged all across the region. And the most important thing is that we are just one single community. We are friends, we are family. It is very, very important to mention that this is possible because we have, as EURIX and Bijal said, they have patrons we call subscriber members or sponsors. These internet organizations, LACNIC and Internet Society, make our life easier. So let me just share what happened in the pandemic. You know, is let's say I'm trying to highlight the good side of the story, the happy side, which is we think the pandemic accelerated many of the process of the internet exchanges in our region. Between 25 to 40% of traffic growth once the countries went on the different lockdown periods. This also had consequences for the internet exchanges to add new members to joining the IXPs. As an association, what we did is we tried to stay more close each other. So as we couldn't meet face to face, we organized many virtual meetings. So we kept in touch. We had meetings with CDNs. We have members meetings. We are meeting with other IXPs from other regions. This year we had CATNIX, the Catalonian Internet Exchange. We had NAMEX, the IXP in Rome, presenting and sharing experiences with our community. We're going to have links, the London Internet Exchange soon in August. So we're planning to have more meetings to stay close to each other and to learn and to exchange experiences and ideas. We also, we've put a plan in place to support list developed IXPs to implement best practices. We're doing that in more than 10 internet exchanges across the region. And not also to implement those best practices, but we are also doing some training. We are delivering training sessions for them, more than 120 hours of trainings. And we're also, and last year we've also had manners IXP program sessions for our community. What would be the downsides of the pandemic? Hardware logistic delays to deliver equipment to the different IXPs, and also we had some CDNs struggling to ship out some of their caches to the region due to this restriction. Also, some issues to support to have on-site support of some of the internet exchanges in the region. So let me just try to summarize, to talk to you through the some highlights. It's impossible to do all the 18 IXPs at a glance, but because Latin America, I would say, is many continents in one, right? Brazil, as you may know, is huge and compared to different countries in the region. So, for example, what happened last year is that the incumbent joined the Costa Rica, the CRIX Internet Exchange. So that had very, very interesting consequences because traffic grew around like from 200 to 300%, and also new members joined that IX. So that was very, very good news. We supported 3 IXPs in the region, 3 new IXPs that went live: Ixal from El Salvador, IX.do from Dominican Republic, and IXI from Yucatan in Mexico. As said, Brazil is huge. Let me share some statistics of just the how many peers they added in a single year from, I think from that was from March 2020 to around January or February 2021. 526 new peers in Sao Paulo in the in that internet exchange location. That represents almost 30% of new members peering in that exchange. And in Fortaleza, which is also a location in IX.br, which is the internet exchange in Brazil, one of the internet exchanges, they grew more than 100% in terms of new peers. That represents 236 new peers in that location. Obviously, of course, that represented growth in terms of traffic as well. What happened in Peru? They have their internet exchange in Lima, the capital city, and they are deploying, they're expanding into 2 more cities this year, Trujillo and Arequipa. What happened in Panama? They had, because of the growth, they had to upgrade their infrastructure, their hardware, from layer 3 to do layer 2 to support more traffic, and they have moved to a new data center.
Right.
So all in all, I mean, what I'm saying is that we experience a growth which was not as not normal, not as in the traditional, let's say, traditional years.
Right.
So lots of process accelerated in this year and a half. So I mentioned,
if Gabriel,
yeah,
if we could just stick a pin here for a little bit, because we need to be able to take some questions.
Yes, of
I
course.
don't want to cut you across, but I'm seeing some interesting trends across the 3 presentations. And there was growth, there were new members added. I saw that with you, I saw that with Nishal, and I saw that with Nico as well. And so one of the questions is, and who any one of you can take this, what were the support issues that would have impacted your internet exchange points during this period? We also have a question in the chat, a couple of questions in the chat, but I have seen Nishal is answering one. We have one from Jerry George. Following the initial pandemic and changes initiated during the breakdowns, many institutions in the region reverted to previous brick and mortar face-to-face transactions. Some even dismantled their online ordering facilities. Some businesses, unfortunately, considered it more costly or less desirable method of conducting business. So I guess that's just a comment from Jerry, but let's hear a little bit about the support that may have resulted. If Nico and Nishal can turn their cameras back on, and let's just take some quick feedback on that from you guys. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, Claire, let me give some feedback on the statement that Jerry made on the brick and mortar and the cost of doing business online being more expensive. Yes, I do recognize that. But what I believe in is also that this whole moving towards internet economy will fuel additional innovations. You know, so if I may give an example, if you look like online ordering and delivery at this moment in time, what we see is that all the different institutions, as Jerry is saying, are organizing their own online ordering and their own delivery facilities, let's say. What you do see happen throughout the world actually is that in time there will be an innovative platform where multiple companies can make use from, right? So you will have this portal that will assist in organizing delivery services. So not every company is going to organize their own delivery service, which is making it quite expensive, but that they can access one delivery service that will be working for multiple entities, multiple restaurants, multiple supermarkets, and stuff like that. So yes, I believe we are only at the start of all these great innovations that already took place for a long time in other more developed economies than our region. But it's just a matter of time before we get that here too.
So you're talking specifically to the digital transformation that you've been speaking about in more areas across different sectors, and even the coming together of certain businesses to consolidate to some extent.
Which will again fuel new innovations.
Right. Yes.
You know, this whole movement will constantly drive new innovations to make this online and internet economy more affordable for everyone.
Right. Interestingly, before we hear from Nishal or Gabriel, we have some really interesting conversation going on in Spanish. I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish, so I cannot translate. But this is really a new and a good thing for CarPIF. As CarPIF 7, we now have it's truly global and international. Let's just hear from the others. We have about 5 minutes left in this conversation. So if we could just get some quick comments back from Nishal and Gabriel to close things off.
Thanks, Claire. So actually, yeah, the way that we managed to maintain the support was actually really interesting. And for me, it underlies an important point about how I would like to think about internet exchanges, particularly, I would say, developing internet exchanges, the community-run ones. We're community-run exchange points. We have 3, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, across the South African triangle, the 3 cities, and they're a distance. In times of pandemic, Cape Town's 1,200 kilometers away from me. I have no way of getting there. And our mechanism for support was literally to find volunteers in the community, as we do now. We have volunteers in our community. So we pegged 2 people in each city, and we said, hey guys, if there ever is a problem, would you be okay with going, to the data center to do work for us? And of course they agreed, because the important part for me is that they're vested in the operations of the exchange. And that for me comes out of taking the time and effort to build a community. Because if you do that, then reaching out to folks, to friends in different cities to say, can you do this for me? Would you mind doing that for me? That works really, really, really well. And that was one of the points I had wanted to make, but well, I got to say it now, so thank you.
Great, thanks. And Gabriel, any feedback, any comments on that?
Not really. I mean, everything has been said. As the IX association in the region, my last slide was just reach out with us. We're very happy to support. We're currently working together and very closely with the Caribbean region. So just let us know. We have again, we've put a plan in place to support the IXPs with best practices, and we're doing very well with that, and we're helping IXPs to not just to grow, but also to develop. So just reach out. Thanks.
Right. Really, really good discussion, really good conversation. There are a couple of comments which I will just read from the chat. Again, some of the questions in the chat have been answered, so persons can go not to the chat, to the Q&A, and see the answers to these questions. And one is from Marlon Clark, and he says, Nisha, can you share a bit more on why non-ISPs should be allowed to peer at an internet exchange, please? And that is really a good question. And I believe that they should be allowed to peer. So we'll see what Nishal's answer is. At least 2 IXPs in the Caribbean have policies that exclude non-IXPs or external content providers. That's not good, right? And Nishal is answering. Then Jerry says, good idea by Nico, development of shared platforms rather than individual services, buying, ordering, delivery, etc. This would also reduce the cost per vendor. And then Kim is saying, thanks, Bijal, and thanks, Stephen. And I now turn you back over to Bevel Wooding, who will introduce the next section. Thanks to the speakers, thanks to the presenters on this panel. Really very informative. Thanks for being here today and sharing with us the ideas of what is taking place in this pandemic and the global significance, because it's something that we really need to keep our finger on the thumb, to find out what are the trends, what are the challenges and the issues. So thanks again. And good morning.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you all. Thank you to the panelists for giving us that view of what's happening in Internet Exchange Points across the world. I think this morning's opening session has really underscored CarPIF's purpose and mission, which is to strengthen Caribbean Internet Exchange Points and the Internet community at large by building cooperation and demonstrating the value proposition of local, regional, and international interconnection, both of people and of networks. Our goal here really, as it has always been, is to allow the CarPIF community to share knowledge and experiences that will benefit our Caribbean landscape. And I think that has been happening